all the World Cup balls explained. There's an object that has been present in every soccer World Cup in history that has touched the feet of Pelé, Maradona, and Messi. That object has changed more than anyone can imagine, from hand-stitched leather to a sensor-equipped device that charges like a phone. This is the complete history of the World Cup ball. The 1930 ball. The ball that sparked a diplomatic dispute. Few people know this, but before discussing the ball, in the Argentina vs. Uruguay final, both countries disagreed on which ball to use. Each team wanted to use its own. The argument was so serious that FIFA had to step in with a solution that seems like a joke today. The first half with the Argentine ball, and the second half with the Uruguayan one. Argentina won the first half 2-1, Uruguay won the second 3-0 and took the championship. Coincidence or not, that story perfectly sums up what football was like in 1930. The ball was made of dark brown leather, hand-stitched with irregular panels. It weighed between 396 and 453 grams when dry. The problem was that when it rained, the leather absorbed the water and the ball could weigh twice as much. Heading this soaked ball could literally break your neck. Balls from 1934 and 1938. The balls from the World Cups in Italy and France were siblings of the one from Uruguay. Stitched leather, dark brown, roughly spherical shape but never perfect. What changed was the manufacturing process. The panels started to be cut more precisely. The stitching became more uniform. They were still heavy when wet. They were still unpredictable in flight. But they were a step towards something more controlled. What no player from that era could have imagined was that in less than 40 years, the World Cup ball would be white, perfectly spherical, and recognizable from the stands. The balls from 1950 and 1954. First to have its own name, Brazil 1950 introduced something new. An official ball with a name, the Super Bowl Duplo T Golden Yellow, with lighter colored leather panels. The first one to try to visually differentiate itself from its predecessors. And Switzerland in '54 went a step further with the Swiss World Champion match ball. Also golden yellow, also with its own name. And with a relevant technical feature, they switched to a butyl bladder instead of natural rubber, giving the ball a more consistent shape. These two World Cups had the highest goals per game averages, 5 and 5.38. Some believe the ball played a role. The yellow leather bounced differently, flew differently. The science of the time had no answer. They simply recorded the goals and moved on. The balls from 1958 and '62. There was a problem here. Television changed soccer in ways that are still felt today, and the ball was one of the first elements that had to adapt. The problem was simple. A brown ball on a green field didn't look good on screen. For Sweden in 1958, the ball became white, with no ornament, no elaborate design, just white, so that black and white cameras could follow it. For Chile in 1962, the crack was introduced. A yellow-orange ball with the name in big letters. The idea was the same. Visibility, so that viewers at home could follow the game. These are the two most functional World Cups in terms of design. Just the basic question. Can you see it or not? The 1966 ball. The orange one, which no one forgot. England 1966 had the most striking ball of its era. Intense orange. No patterns, no extra design, just that color that stood out in any lighting condition. And that was exactly the reason. In a country where rain and fog were regular companions at matches, an orange ball was the best guarantee that no one would lose sight of it. That was the last World Cup with a monochromatic ball without a distinct panel design. Because 4 years later, something arrived that changed the history of football forever. The 1970 ball. The most iconic ball in history. If there is a ball that defines what the world understands as a soccer ball, it's the Telstar from 1970. White with black pentagonal patches. The combination of 32 panels. 20 white hexagons and 12 black pentagons. A design that in 1970 was high-tech, and today is still the universal symbol of soccer. The Telstar was specifically designed to be visible on black and white television. The black patches created contrast on the screen and allowed viewers to follow the ball's rotation during flight. Mexico 1970 was the first World Cup broadcast in color worldwide. The Telstar was made for that historic moment. Pelé, Jairzinho, Müller, they all touched that ball. And that ball ended up becoming the emoji we use today when we write about soccer. Balls from 1974, 78, and 82. The German Tango era, in '74, kept the essence of the Telstar with the Telstar Durlast. Same basic design, improved materials, Greater durability. Adidas was already the official brand and realized the ball was a communication tool. The visual revolution began in Argentina in '78 with the Tango. The Tango introduced the triad design. 12 identical circles distributed symmetrically, each made up of 3 shapes that together created the illusion of a faceted ball. Black and white, like the Telstar, but with a completely new geometric elegance. The Tango was so well received that in Spain, '82, almost the same design was used. 3 World Cups with the same design family. Football holds on to things that work for as long as possible. The ball from 1986, the Azteca Mexico '86, was the Azteca. And the Azteca was not just another ball. It was the first synthetic ball in World Cup history. No leather, synthetic polymers that didn't absorb water. For the first time, the ball's weight stayed the same from start to finish. Rain or shine. The design also spoke about the host country, with patterns that imitated the mosaics of the Aztec pyramids in black and white. It was the first World Cup ball that consciously tried to tell the story of the place where it was played. Starting from 1986, there was no going back to leather. The future was synthetic. Balls from 1990 and '94 Italia '90. It brought a more sophisticated ball in design, more precise in flight, and it was also the ball used at the most boring World Cup in history, which paradoxically had one of the most elegant designs. The United States, in '94, introduced the Questra, with improved polyethylene foam inside, which gave the ball more speed. The first one designed with true aerodynamic principles. These 2 balls didn't have major controversies, they worked, and at that time, that was enough. 1998 ball. The Tricolore France 1998 changed an unwritten rule that had lasted for decades. The Tricolore was the first World Cup ball. It wasn't black or white, but blue, red, and gold, the colors of the French flag. A ball that took sides with the host before the first match even started. The reaction was interesting. Some loved it for its boldness. Others said that the World Cup ball should be neutral, without national colors. The debate didn't last long, because the tournament was incredible and France won at home. Ball of 2002. Korea, Japan, 2002. It introduced the Fiber Nova, a visually striking football. Red, intense, and gold, inspired by Asian art. The ball was unlike anything seen before. Inside, there were also changes. 11 inner layers around a synthetic foam core that gave the ball a more precise response to the touch. The players received it well. The Fiber Nova behaved consistently. For the Brazil versus Germany final, Adidas introduced a special version with gold details, starting a tradition that continues today. A unique ball for the tournament's biggest match. Ronaldo scored 2 goals with that golden ball, and Brazil won their 5th World Cup. The 2006 ball was the Teamgeist. Goodbye to 32 panels Germany. 2006 was when Adidas made the riskiest ball design decision in its history. They abandoned the 32 panel design that had defined them for decades. The Geist arrived with only 14 thermally bonded panels. Without seams, the panels weren't stitched, but fused together with heat. The result was the most spherical ball ever used in a World Cup, and with fewer seams. The flight became more stable and predictable. Goalkeepers noticed that the ball moved differently, but the reception was positive. The logic seemed clear. Fewer panels, better flight. In 2010, Adidas pushed further, and that's when everything fell apart. 2010 ball, the Jabulani, the biggest disaster in history. The Jabulani from South Africa. 2010 is the most infamous ball in the history of soccer. Only 8 thermally bonded panels, the lowest number up to that point. Adidas called it aerodynamically optimized, but the players didn't like it very much. Iker Casillas said it was a nightmare. Julio Cesar, Brazil's goalkeeper, likened it to a supermarket ball. Robinho bluntly said the designer never played soccer. Jean-Louis Buffon called it a disgrace. The problem was technical and well documented. The ball was so light that it would accelerate violently when kicked and could swerve unexpectedly in midair. Long-distance shots became unpredictable projectiles. Craig Johnston, designer of the legendary Adidas Predator boot, wrote a 12-page letter to FIFA asking them to replace it, but they didn't replace it. The only one who benefited was Diego Forlan from Uruguay, who seemed to understand the physics of the Jabulani better than anyone and won the tournament's golden ball. His goal against Germany in the third-place match remains one of the best in World Cup history. 2014 ball, the Adidas Brazuca had to regain trust, and it did so in the most serious way possible. The Brazuca for Brazil 2014 was tested by over 600 professional players from 30 clubs for 2.5 years. The result was a 6-panel ball with deeper, more prominent seams that restored the consistent aerodynamic resistance lost with the Jabulani. The flight became predictable, and goalkeepers could read the trajectory. The Brazilian public chose the name in a vote of over 1 million people, and the interlocking panel design in green, blue, and yellow captured the energy of the host country. Better than any previous balls from 2018 and 2022. When technology entered the ball, the Telstar 18 for Russia 2018 was a visual tribute to the black and white ball from 1970, with a modern pixelated design. But inside, there was something completely new: an NFC chip, the first ever installed in a World Cup ball. It had no effect on the game, but it was a first step towards something that would change everything. Something arrived in Qatar 2022 with Al Rila, which means the journey in Arabic, a motion sensor that captured position and trajectory in real time and transmitted that information to the semi-automated offside system. For the first time, the ball was involved in refereeing decisions, and perhaps that's when football began to die. What do you think? 2026 ball. The first ball that you charge like a phone before each match of the 2026 World Cup, the official ball will be plugged in. To charge it, not to pump it, to charge it. The Tryon has 4 panels, the lowest number in history. And inside, a 500 heart sensor that captures speed, rotation, trajectory, and point of contact 500 times per second. It's called Tryon because it means 3 waves. Regarding the 3 host countries, the panel colors represent the United States, Mexico, and Canada, while the gold details directly reference the trophy. It is the most technologically sophisticated object that has ever been kicked in the history of soccer. 96 years separate the hand-stitched leather ball from Uruguay 1930 from this device that needs a battery to work. What do you guys think? Which World Cup ball do you think is the best? Comment below. If you made it this far, check out the video on the screen. I think you'll enjoy it.